Hi guys, Miss Francis here to talk about cycles that are found in ecosystems. They include the water cycle, the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, and the phosphorus cycle. So let's first discuss the water cycle. Well, water comes from precipitation, either over the sea or over the land. That precipitation can then percolate or be filtered by the soil. The water that doesn't percolate in the soil can form runoff and groundwater returning back to the sea. And then you've got evaporation over the sea, which returns the water back to the atmosphere, as well as transpiration that occurs from plants that returns the water into the atmosphere. So let's talk now about the carbon cycle. Carbon can be found in the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. So you're going to have carbon in your producers and you're going to have carbon in your consumers. You're also going to have carbon in your detrivores, the organisms that are going to break down the detritus. You'll also find carbon in fossil fuels. So how does that carbon dioxide get from the atmosphere into plants? Well, plants are going to do photosynthesis. And remember, through the process of photosynthesis, plants are going to make G3P or PGAL, which can then be converted into glucose, which can also then form other organic molecules. So from photosynthesis, now we've got the carbon in the plants. Well, how does it get to the consumers? The consumers eat. They do feeding in order to get the carbon and continue the carbon cycle. Furthermore, the detrivores, the organisms that are breaking down the dead and organic molecules, are also going to help add carbon back into the atmosphere, because all of these consumers, producers, and detrivores are going to do cellular respiration, which returns that carbon back into the atmosphere. Lastly, combustion occurs, which is the burning of fossil fuels, and this is the area in which humans have had the most impact, where we're adding carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere in an alarming rate. Now let's explore the nitrogen cycle. 78% of the atmosphere is composed of nitrogen, but it's in an unusable form. So how does nitrogen get to a usable form? Well, it involves a couple of steps. So the first step is nitrogen fixation, where you've got nitrogen-fixing bacteria that occur in the nodules of the legumes as well as in the soil. That nitrogen-fixing bacteria converts that unusable atmospheric nitrogen into ammonium by doing ammonification. However, that ammonium or ammonia is still not usable by the plants. So now you've got this nitrifying bacteria, which are going to do nitrification and convert that ammonia into nitrites and nitrates, which is then usable. So now our plants can assimilate that usable nitrogen into themselves. How does nitrogen return back to the atmosphere? Well, you've got these denitrifying bacteria, which are going to return those nitrites and those nitrates back into atmospheric nitrogen. Now, why is nitrogen such an important element? Because nitrogen is found in DNA, the blueprints of life, and it's also found in proteins, which enable life to occur. Now let's take a look at the phosphorus cycle. And the phosphorus cycle is unique because phosphorus isn't found in the atmosphere. It actually comes from the weathering of rocks. So here we've got the weathering of rocks, which releases phosphates. Those phosphates can then be assimilated by plants. Those plants are then eaten by animals, so now the animals assimilate that phosphorus, and then any dead organism is broken down by decomposers, which returns that phosphate to the soil. Now, some of that phosphate leaches into bodies of water, and then within those bodies of water you can have sedimentation, which forms new rocks. So those are the important cycles. Oh, why is phosphorus so important? Phosphate is a key component of ATP. Without ATP, we wouldn't be able to do anything. Furthermore, phosphate is found in your phospholipid bilayer. Without that, we wouldn't be able to, or life wouldn't look like what it looks like today.